CETA may not have so many negative implications for the environment, for sustainability, but it's a missed chance. You know, they should have done things and come forward with policies that would cover those elements. I mean, there's an environmental chapter in CETA. There is cooperation, but it's more on a voluntary base. It's a very vague kind of chapter compared to everything else, where we have quantified elements in, let us say, in the reduction of tariffs or in the abolishment of tariffs, many other elements. So CETA is in this regard, not actually, from my perspective, in a very general way, not producing too many costs, environmental costs, but also not too many benefits.
The decisions or the clauses of CETA will not impact in any way the possibility of governments of deciding of their level of health or environmental risk. So it doesn't affect the environmental policy, domestic environmental policy. Having said that, it means that it doesn't affect how businesses are done in Canada in terms of from an environmental point of view, at least to my understanding. So whatever has been decided in CETA does not affect the multilateral environmental agreements, for example, that Canada is part of. They have to follow the principles of those multilateral environmental agreements. It doesn't push Canada to implement higher standards from an environmental point of view. So it does not affect the possibility of government of running its policy, and it does not affect the possibility of businesses of running their businesses as they did before CETA was signed.
I would say that presumably there are more benefits than drawbacks. I mean, CETA contains, as far as I can see it, NAFTA type additional chapters, specific chapters on sustainable development, on environmental protection, labor protection. So presumably they will lead to more enforcement. We heard today that there are also panels of experts who can work on these issues. Yeah, I would say it's probably one of the most advanced agreements that specifically name and focus on these issues. Of course, we don't know what the practice will show.
As an experiment, let's assume in a couple of years or so, there would be for some reason an enormous change in the sentiments of Canadian electorates. They would go for a different government and they would say, for example, we need to change the way we are extracting resources, particularly with the oil sands. And then all those investments from businesses across the world, but also European businesses already in Alberta, out of a sudden their investments would lose value because it's no longer bringing the profits they were expecting. With CETA, they could go to one of those courts and say, that's if you're going for such a change, then we want compensation, and even more. This may restrict the kind of possibilities for government. So in this regard, even though we don't see this development currently happen, but it's the general, from a principal point of view, you can put a question mark behind it. Companies, the hurdles for companies to take states in front of those arbitration courts, private law actually, those are much higher than in all other agreements. But having said that, I mean, it's still an issue whether such a mechanism is necessary, because what it means at the end of the day, whether it's this kind of more modest way in CETA or other forms that are already enshrined in those agreements, it's questioning national sovereignty. I mean, that's the core of the problem.
The NGOs and the anti-ISDS groups have been very successful in steering up fears, because the numbers show that investors are losing more cases than states. They're getting hardly any money, especially on the NAFTA. And already now you have the public policy exceptions, which opens the door for abusive measures under the guise of environmental protection. So to give you an example, I work now in the solar energy sector, and in Europe you see a lot of retroactive measures taking away subsidies, tax breaks for solar energy producers. How does this fit together with environmental protection and sustainable energy production? Is it bad that a Dutch water utility company would buy a Canadian water utility? I don't think so. If you believe in fair trade and if they can offer a better deal and more efficient deal, prices can also go down. I don't think that necessarily that is a bad thing.
The water part in CETA is handled with the so-called Annex 2. There are various annexes. Annex 2, and this is one annex that defines pretty much what kind of activities will not be touched by any kind of CETA agreement, and water is one part of it. So in this respect, I think so the provision of water is something that is still in the hands of provinces, of the various kind of agencies, and it's not really an issue.